Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to this 10-day Shamatha retreat. This Shamatha retreat, of course, is part of this Buddhism A to Z program, 7-year program. This is the year 3, so this is the retreat part of the program for year 3. Just to introduce myself first, some of you know me already, some of you perhaps not. So my name's Glen Svensson. I'm from Australia originally, grew up in Australia, went to university there, have a Bachelor of Science in IT. I worked in the IT field for about 12 years. And then after that, I did my first course in Buddhism in India, in Tushita Meditation Centre in Dharamsala in 95. Did a couple of other courses, the 1-month November course, Kopan Monastery in Kathmandu, and then I went on to do a 7-year study program in Buddhist philosophy in Italy, a master's program that finished in 2004, and then I went on and did about a year of retreat after that, and for about the last 12 or 13 years I've been sort of moving around in a number of different countries, initially a lot in India, but now more in Europe, teaching courses and leading retreats. And this particular retreat that we're doing here is one of my favourite retreats. I very much enjoy leading these retreats, and also I find them very beneficial for many people in the modern world. So I'm very happy to be here, very happy to be leading this retreat. Course materials, I don't know if you handed out the course materials yet. Maybe you'd like, someone can, I think they're in the back corner there. If a couple of you might like to just hand those out. I just want to briefly mention the materials. The first 2 or 3 pages is this Shamatha chart, and the next page. This is really the material that we're going to be using to help support the Shamatha part of the retreat. But also, as we see on the cover here, there's going to be a presentation of Samsara Nirvana. So what I'm going to be doing each evening is starting to build a framework for this practice. Sort of the bigger Buddhist picture. Where does this practice we're doing, where does this fit into the bigger Buddhist picture? So I'm going to be looking at what's called the Four Noble Truths, and then on that basis having a look at this idea of samsara and nirvana, and a couple of other topics such as these 12 links of dependent origination. So these are some of the topics we're going to be looking at in the evening sessions to help build a framework of understanding for this practice. The schedule, I don't know if you've gone through the schedule, but anyway, I'd like to go through it again just so we have it clear in our mind. It's posted on the door here, and I think in a few other places as well. And generally 5 minutes before every session there'll be the gong. It was here before, but the gong will be a gong, and of course we're all staying in this building here, and so don't have very far to come. So this evening I'm just going to do a sort of brief introduction and a little bit of practice as well. And then tomorrow, for the next 8 days, we'll have the same schedule. So there'll be a wake-up gong at 6 o'clock. And then at 6:30 there'll be a little bit of wake-up stretching. I don't know what we'd call it. Zippy's going to be leading that to basically get the body moving in the morning. So that's going to happen in the room behind us here. There's a large room in there, so that's where that's going to happen. So that'll be at 6:30 for 20 minutes, just to really stretch the body, to warm ourselves up to get going for the day. And then 7 o'clock here, there'll be a morning guided meditation. David will be leading those sessions in the morning before breakfast. Breakfast will be at 7:30, so of course all the meals are in that building just over the back where we had dinner. So breakfast, lunch, dinner over there. Breakfast will be 7:30, and then in the morning at 9 o'clock, be first session in here with me from 9 till 10:15. Morning tea break from 10:15 to 10:45. I think there's tea and coffee and a few other things available upstairs here for that. And then 10:45 till 12, the second morning session. Lunch at 12 o'clock, break till 2. 2 till 3:15 will be the first afternoon session here with me. 3:15 to 3:45 afternoon tea break. And then 3:45 to 4:45 there'll be a sort of afternoon yoga session with Zippy again in this room behind us. And she'll be specifically it won't be anything high level, but it will be specifically targeted to help us to be able to sit better in meditation. So, we're doing this 10-day retreat, a lot of sitting, then it's good to really move the body and really start to work with the body to balance the energies in the body to be able to sit better in meditation. So we had the same format last year, and a number of people really commented how they got a lot out of these sessions. So they're very, very good sessions and very important part of being able to sit properly and meditate. So that's from 3:45 to 4:45, 1 hour session next door. 4:45 till 5, just short break, transition break, and then 5 till 6, and another session with me here. Dinner at 6 o'clock till 7:30 in the evening, and then an evening session from 7:30 till about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So that's the same program for the next 8 days. And then on the last day, in the morning, same program before breakfast, and then we'll have 2 sessions in the morning where I'll be sort of doing a little bit of a wrap-up, and also Dharma friends will be giving a talk there as well, and just some integration, how to integrate a lot of these practices into daily life, and also some practical advice as well, and we'll be finishing at 12 o'clock on the following Saturday. So that's the schedule. Again, it's posted on the door in a number of places. Now, what we're going to be doing again is this Shamatha retreat. And Shamatha is really, and I'll talk more about Shamatha shortly, it's really about developing our attention skills to be able to improve our concentration. And for this practice, we can focus on any one of many different objects. But in this retreat, we're going to focus on 3 particular objects, each one of which can be very effective for us in the modern world. The first object that we're going to work with is the breath, the physical sensations of breath. There's a number of variations of this, so we'll be spending about 2 days working with the breath. This is very much emphasised in many Buddhist traditions to focus on the breath. And then on day 4, we're going to switch to observing the mind as the object of practice. That is, observing our thoughts, emotions, memories, and so forth. And then on day 5, we're going to switch to what's called resting in awareness, just knowing we're aware. And then on day 6, we're going to sort of combine that resting in awareness, observing the mind, sometimes called stillness in motion. And then day 7 and 8, we'll go a little bit deeper. You'll get to choose whatever object you like to work with. And so those 2 days is really a little bit of an opportunity for you to pick one of these objects that you prefer, and then to just go a little bit deeper into that practice, to get more familiar with that practice. And then on day 9, I want to move into a little bit of an introduction into what's called Vipassana, insight practice. And so I just want to sort of touch on that a little bit on day 9, and then day 10, as I mentioned, the sort of practical advice, integrating into daily life and so forth. So just to help me a little bit, how many of you have done some sort of shamatha practice working with the breath or mind or awareness? So how many of you have some experience with that? Okay, good. In particular, how many of you have experience with observing the mind as an object? Resting in awareness? Okay. So that's good. But in this retreat, I'm not assuming you have any experience of anything. So we're starting from the ground up. So I'm not assuming some level of experience already. So we'll be really working from the ground up, building a good framework for our practice. And of course, this retreat, we're going to be doing it in silence. So the silence will start after this session, and it will run through till the last morning at breakfast, following Saturday morning breakfast. And the reason we're doing it in silence is to really get the most out of this retreat. That, you know, if during these sorts of retreats we're doing a lot of talking, we're going to dissipate a lot of the positive energy. We're not really going to get very much out of the retreat. So if we maintain that silence very well, it really helps to get the most out of this retreat. And of course, if you start talking, then not only will you not get so much out of the retreat, but you'll spoil it for the people around you. So very much encourage you to maintain that silence very well. Of course, we're not doing what's called noble silence. In some Buddhist traditions, they even talk about keeping the eyes down, don't look at anyone. We're not doing that sort of hardcore stuff. So it's okay to look at other people, to smile at other people. But of course, we start doing hand signals and writing notes, then that's not really silence. So, so that middle way approach, you know, nice and relaxed, friendly, but also sort of keeping in our own space as well. And also to really help maintain that silence, what we're going to do in my sessions, because normally in my sessions I like to be very interactive, so give you an opportunity to get feedback, to ask questions, clarification and so forth. But what we're going to do to really maintain the silence well is in the morning sessions before lunch, we won't do any Q&A in the class. So really to mainly focus on practice in the morning sessions, and we'll leave the sort of interaction, the questioning, till the afternoon and evening sessions. Okay, so each day, the first half of the day, we'll really be working closely with the silence, even in the classroom as well, to really go further into the practice. So the goal of this retreat, of course, is to simply learn the practices, to practice them, and then also to understand how we can bring this into our daily life. So what we don't want to do is have an expectation that during this retreat we're going to have some profound meditative experiences. Because if we have this expectation, we're probably just setting ourselves up for a lot of frustration. So we're simply learning the practices and have really no expectation of any sort of experiences in meditation. But of course it is quite common in these retreats for things to come up in our meditation. Sometimes these things are very pleasant, sometimes they're very strange, sometimes even a bit unpleasant. But the general recommendation is that whatever sort of comes up in our practice, don't make a big deal of it. Because usually people make a big deal of it. If something pleasant comes up, they go, oh, that's so nice, I like that, I want that. And of course that craving to that pleasant experience, gone. And then people try to recreate it and get frustrated when they can't do that, and their whole practice comes to a grinding halt. Or sometimes if we have a little bit of a strange experience, or maybe even a bit of an unpleasant experience, people go, oh, what's that? I don't like that. Go away, go away. And then that also creates problems. So these sorts of things, they'll come and they'll go. Don't make a big deal out of them, and just keep to the practice. And then you'll get the most out of the practice. So what I'd recommend then is to really have a very relaxed approach in this retreat, because often in the modern world we tend to have this sort of striving approach, push, push, push. You know, we're not getting anywhere, so let's push harder. So we don't want to do that in this retreat. So really stay nice and relaxed the entire time. Relaxed body, relaxed mind. Don't get into this sort of pushing mode and thinking, well, I've got to get somewhere, I've got to get there, and I've got to get there now. Otherwise, we're just going to get frustrated and agitated, irritated. So just nice and relaxed, relax, relax, relax. Now, so that's a little bit of the logistics of the retreat. Any questions about any logistics before I give a brief introduction into the actual Shamatha practice now? Okay. So, of course, since we're doing shamatha practice, it might be a good idea to know what is shamatha as a starting point. Shamatha is a Sanskrit word, and when Buddhism first was spread from India a couple of 2,000 years ago, it spread through two main languages, Pali and Sanskrit. And here I'll be mainly working with the Sanskrit language. And shamatha is a Sanskrit word, and you can divide into two parts, shama and ta. Shama means a mind that is calm, meaning a non-discursive mind, and not a mind caught up in a lot of thinking, so a very calm mind. Ta means to remain or abide. So shamatha is often translated into English as calm abiding. So we're talking about not only a mind that is very calm, but a mind that is abiding, or in other words, it's single-pointedly focused on an object. So we're talking about here cultivating a calm, clear, focused mind. So that's what shamatha practice is. Shamatha is all about developing our attention skills and to simply develop that calm, clear, focused mind. Why is this practice important? Well, of course, in everyday life, it's very important, because if we don't have good attention skills in daily life, if our mind is always distracted or half asleep, then we're not effective in anything we do in our life. We're not effective at work or play or anywhere. And that distraction often leads to a lot of agitation and stress, a lot of mental imbalance. It can often lead to also physical health problems, and we don't tend to even enjoy simple pleasures in life as much as we normally could with that sort of state of mind. So in an everyday life level, doing this practice, we're going to notice that we'll be not only have a much more calm mind, our mind will be more focused, we'll be more effective in everything we do in our life, much less mental imbalance, much less agitation and stress, and we'll even enjoy much better mental balance, and we'll enjoy simple pleasures in life much more than we normally do. But of course here, we're doing this shamatha practice in a Buddhist framework. So where does this fit in the bigger Buddhist picture is that in all Buddhist traditions we can talk about three main core areas of practice. That the first area of practice and the foundation is ethics. Ethics simply means avoiding harmful, non-virtuous behaviour. So that's the foundation. And on that basis, we engage in what's called the concentration practice. To develop single-pointed concentration. So of course here, this concentration practice we are calling with the name shamatha. So often this concentration practice is simply called shamatha practice. And on the basis of developing that single-pointed concentration, the next core area of practice is the wisdom practice. And this wisdom practice is often called, in Sanskrit, vipassana practice. Many of you are probably more familiar with the Pali term vipassana. So vipassana or vipassana, like shamatha, we can divide into two parts. The vi prefix here means higher or superior. And passana or pasana means to see. So Vipassana or Vipassana is often translated in English as some like higher seeing or special insight or simply insight. And so, of course, this wisdom practice is all about gaining insight into the nature of reality. Because the Buddhist assertion is that it's our distorted view of reality that is the root cause of all of our mental afflictions, such as attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth, and all of our suffering. So if we want to overcome all of our mental afflictions, attachment, anger, jealousy, craving, so forth, and all of our suffering, we need to eliminate this distorted view of reality. And we do that through the Vipassana practice, and we'll give a little brief taste of that practice. We'll spend day 9 introducing this and doing a little bit of this practice in day 9 of this retreat. So this is where the Shamatha practice fits in the sort of the bigger Buddhist picture. That it's really the basis of Vipassana practice, because without a calm, clear, focused mind, this Vipassana practice won't work very well. In fact, none of our practices will work very well if we don't have a calm, clear, focused mind. Any questions so far? Okay. How to train in it? How do we train in this Shamatha practice? The first point is what's called preconditions. Preconditions is about how to set up our life in such a way to support this practice. And this is very important. And unfortunately, in the modern world, where now mindfulness is getting quite popular, a lot of modern day mindfulness traditions don't really pay attention to this at all. Is that a lot of them simply try to use mindfulness to somehow soothe our agitated mind, without addressing at all whether or not we have a dysfunctional lifestyle. And if we don't address those sorts of things, then it doesn't matter how much mindfulness you're doing, you're never going to sort out your life. So these preconditions is about how to set up our life in such a way to support this practice so that it can really be effective and it can be transformative. And so we're going to be looking at what these might look like towards the end of this retreat. And then in terms of practice, any practice we do always has 2 parts. One part of practice is meditation, and the other part is what we do for the rest of the day. Because if we only just do meditation, and let's say we're doing this meditation, this Shamatha practice, and we're meditating each morning, but then when we finish meditation, we jump up and run around like crazy for the rest of the day, that's going to work against our meditation. We're not going to progress. So if we want to progress in this or any practice, we need to have a meditation where we internalize, but then we need to integrate that practice into daily life. If we do both of these things, we're going to progress. So we're going to be looking at, particularly again on the later part of the retreat, particularly last morning, how to bring a lot of these practices into daily life, what to do in daily life. And then with any practice, it's also helpful to know if we're progressing and where we are in the progression, how far we've got in our practice. So we're going to look at, in this shamatha practice, the stages of development. Where are we in the practice, and what are the stages that we go through in progression when we progress in the practice? And that's what we're going to do a little bit later in the evening sessions, looking at this diagram here. This is one standard model that describes the stages we go through in this practice of how to progress. So that will come towards, again, the latter half of the retreat in the evening sessions. Meditation also has two parts. There is preparation and actual meditation. And this is often where also people find difficulties in their meditation practice, is they either don't do the preparation or they don't do it well. You know, often people just sit down and start meditating and they wonder why it's not going very well. That's a little bit like trying to run a 100-metre sprint without warming up. I think that's not going to work very well. So we need to, at the beginning of each meditation, we need to prepare ourselves well so that the meditation can go better. And so in terms of preparation, we can talk about preparing body, speech, and mind. So, what do we mean by preparing body, speech, and mind? So, preparing the body is, of course, setting up a good posture for meditation. We want to be able to set up the body in such a way that we can basically forget about it and it doesn't create problems in our meditation. There are a number of things to look for in setting up a good posture, and we'll go through them in a minute. But in general, for a good posture, two things are very important. One is to keep the back nice and straight. If we don't have a straight back, we're sitting here like this trying to meditate, I think we're just going to get very drowsy and sleepy. And also at a more subtle level, by having the back like this, we're blocking a lot of the movement of subtle energies in the body, and that's going to create problems as well. Whereas if you have the back straight, that's going to help avoid drowsiness and also allow the subtle energies to move more freely within the body. So that's the first thing, back straight. The other thing is to allow the entire body to become completely relaxed, to release